Storm Runner is the extreme launch coaster at Hersheypark. While Storm Runner may not be the tallest or fastest Intamin accelerator coaster, this ride has a much longer and more unique layout. You have the usually awesome hydraulic launch and top hat combination, but then you have 3 different inversions as you whiz through Pioneer Frontier. So is this Intamin's best accelerator coaster in the United States? Find out in this review of Storm Runner. Intamin debuted the hydraulic launch in 2002 on Knott's Berry Farm's Accelerator. This would immediately become one of the most powerful coaster launches on the market. This new propulsion method hooked the train onto a catch car attached to a cable. A series of hydraulic motors would then spin a large winch drum, rewinding the cable and pulling the train down the launch track. Accelerator would launch riders from 0 to 82 miles per hour or 132 kilometers per hour in just 2.3 seconds. In 2003, Cedar Point would use this launch method to produce the world's tallest and fastest roller coaster and Top Thrill dragster. Meanwhile, Hersheypark contracted Intamin to build a much different accelerator coaster for the 2004 season. Named Storm Runner, this coaster would use a hydraulic launch to accelerate riders from 0 to 72 miles per hour or 116 kilometers per hour in just 2 seconds. It would actually have America's fastest and the world's second fastest acceleration when it opened. But what really differentiated it from the prior accelerator coasters was its layout. While the other two were contained in a small footprint, Storm Runner would feature a sprawling layout throughout Pioneer Frontier, the park's western area. And this was done out of necessity. If you're familiar with Hersheypark, you know this Pennsylvanian theme park does not have much room to work with. So Intamin really had to cram this coaster around existing rides, pathways, and trees, and the end result is great. The giant red elements look imposing as they pop above the tree line. The top hat in particular looks amazing because there's a specific angle from the parking lot where it looks to be supported by the 2 smokestacks from the Hershey factory. Then the ride adds a ton of kinetic energy to the park as it zips by at a blistering pace. And on ride, those interactions create some awesome visuals. In particular, you have this terrifying head chopper towards the end of the ride with the monorail track. It's one of my favorite head chopper moments on any coaster. While this coaster has a nice appearance and a cool logo, it doesn't have any theming in the station or along the course. But that's fine for this type of ride. You're going so fast, you really wouldn't be able to appreciate anything. Storm Runner is one of Hersheypark's most popular roller coasters, but usually has a manageable wait. Unless the park is absolutely packed, I usually don't have to wait more than 15 to 30 minutes for Storm Runner. Even if you have a skip the line pass, you typically won't save much time on this one because of how far back the merge point is. If you head to Storm Runner early in the day, you can usually marathon it for the first hour with no wait because it's pretty far back in the park. This coaster is a dual load platform, so keep an eye out which side has a shorter wait for the seat you want. And since it almost always runs 2 trains using both sides, the ride dispatches trains at a steady rate. Each train seats 20 riders, although they sometimes will not fill every seat. Since the hydraulic launch likes the weight of each train to be relatively consistent, they will sometimes block off the back 1 or 2 cars on quieter days. This prevents the scenario where one train goes out full and another goes out nearly empty. The alternative is holding a train until they get enough people to fill it. This is the method Great Adventure uses on King Ka for comparison. Intamin hydraulic launch coasters are notorious for downtime. Storm Runner is both good and bad in this area. On the bright side, this one is more consistent on the days when it's open. From experience, Storm Runner rarely has the short breakdowns that plague Top Thrill Dragster or King Ka throughout the day. This coaster tends to have larger breakdowns. The coaster has snapped its cable before, which the park can repair themselves if they have a spare on hand. But the ride was most recently closed for the entire 2020 season when they were awaiting a part. It's also worth noting that this coaster cannot run in the rain. This isn't exclusive to Storm Runner, it's an issue for all the Intamin accelerator coasters. So which seat do I recommend? I have a slight preference for the front so you can feel the full extent of this coaster's speed, particularly on the launch, but there isn't a bad seat in this coaster. Unlike the first two Accelerator coasters, Storm Runner has over-the-shoulder restraints. Through the 2015 season, the coaster had hard shoulder straps. For the 2016 season onwards, the straps have been replaced with softer ones. These are the same restraints now found on Maverick or Intimidator 305. This was a much appreciated change. Storm Runner tracks very smoothly, but there are some wild turns where you could previously hit your head. The one thing to watch out for with the new straps is that they do not have much clearance with your head. So if you wear glasses, watch out when they come up because they'll try to rip them off your head, even if you have a strap. I typically turn my head 90 degrees to the side to try and prevent this. While I'd prefer lap bars, the restraints are tolerable. The portion that sits across your lap is a little bulky, but it won't inhibit your ability to experience this coaster's airtime. Once dispatched, you slowly roll out of the station, and then you pause on the launch track. Once the catch car engages, you roll back slightly. The brakes will drop, and then you hear a pre-recorded audio message in a super deep voice say,
"Get ready, here we go."
In past seasons, I remember you'd launch immediately after the voice said go. But in 2021, there was a second or so delay when you'd hear some thunder crackling right before you'd launch. I actually liked that because it made the exact moment you'd launch a little more unpredictable than in the past. And that launch is exceptional. The force causes my stomach to drop. You are forcefully pinned against your seat back from the acceleration. And if you're up front, your face is also power blasted by the wind. This is easily one of the best coaster launches out there. And even after all these years, it still has the 6th fastest rate of acceleration on any coaster in the entire world. After the exhilarating launch, you get blasted with some positive Gs at the base of the next element, and then you effortlessly clear the 150-foot or 46-meter tall top hat. Unlike Top Thrill Dragster or King to Ka, where the ride is more likely to roll back, Storm Runner consistently clears its top hat. So while your odds of getting those coveted rollbacks in this one are slim to none, the airtime over the top more than compensates. Up front, you get strong sustained ejector airtime clearing the tight apex of the top hat. In the back, you get good floater airtime ascending the hill, and then it morphs in a powerful ejector airtime on the vertical drop that follows. The top hat's drop is considerably taller at 180 feet or 55 meters. So this valley is where you actually hit the ride's max speed of 75 miles per hour or 121 kilometers per hour. It's rare when a launch coaster hits its max speed later in the layout. The pullout from the drop is super tight, so you'll get some good sustained Gs into the next element. I frequently start to gray out here. You then wrap into the Cobra Loop, which is this very bizarrely profiled Immelman. The ascent carries the positive Gs from the top hat's pullout, but the flip of the top doesn't really do too much. You then twist downwards, and the banking results in some faint laterals if you're riding up front. The next valley is even more compact than the prior one, so you're absolutely slammed with positive Gs. I suspect this is where Storm Runner pulls its advertised 5 Gs. It feels more powerful than the first pullout. You then sharply rise into the air, getting a great pop of ejector airtime. With barely any time to return to your seat, Storm Runner then throws 2 exceptional inversions at you. You have an inline twist immediately followed by a flying snake dive. The first inline twist is super snappy and it delivers some forceful hang time. And it immediately leads into the flying snake dive. This element starts as an inline twist before diving downwards. But unlike a regular dive loop, the drop also twists 90 degrees. This element doesn't offer any hang time. Rather, it's extremely disorienting, and it also offers some very strong laterals throughout from all that sudden twisting. The subsequent valley is where you get that aforementioned head chopper with the monorail, so it really sneaks up on you. Storm Runner then traverses this weird double-up finale. The first part doesn't give airtime. Rather, it's sharply banked to the right, so it feels like a weaker version of a Stengel dive. it delivers a very abrupt lateral jolt. The second part of the double up gives you more traditional airtime. It gives some nice flagector airtime throughout the train. You then hit the brake run with a ton of speed, ending your 2,600 foot or 790 meter long journey. So what would I rate Storm Runner? I would give this Intamin launch coaster a 9 out of 10. This ride delivers the powerful launch we'd expect from an Intamin accelerator coaster, but it also gives a full ride. While the coaster is still over in a flash, that's because of how fast you rip through the layout. Storm Runner has near perfect pacing between its eye-popping speeds and great elements. Storm Runner has some powerful airtime, excellent transitions, and 3 inversions, with the final 2 being some of the best on any coaster. Add in that unique setting and you have a real winner. This is my 3rd favorite coaster at Hersheypark after the 2 hypercoasters, and I think this is easily my favorite accelerator coaster in America. I just love the more extensive layout. I do think Formula Rossa at Ferrari World is the best accelerator coaster overall because it has a superior launch and a far longer ride, but Storm Runner is a very respectable number 2. This really is a top-notch launch coaster. So those are my thoughts on Storm Runner, the hydraulic launch coaster at Hersheypark. What are your thoughts on this Intamin accelerator coaster? Do you agree it's the best one in America? I would love to hear your thoughts down in the comments. If you enjoyed this review, I'd appreciate it if you gave this video a like, and you considered subscribing, because there'll be a lot more roller coaster and amusement park videos here at Canopy Coaster. Thanks for watching.